Good morning, everybody. Good evening, good afternoon for those of you who are online and it's a different time zone. They had to change some stuff around for me because I can't deal with the ear thing. My name is Nytasha, Obasi. My pronouns are she, her, and hers. Why? Okay, so I'm gonna be heckled today. Is that what's going on? All right then. I can take it. It's all right. This is the second time that I've done a sermon this year. For those of you who don't know me and are seeing me for the first time or hearing me for the first time, they've already told you that I'm the bookkeeper for the church. I'm also a member of the greeting team, and I run one of the small groups. Hello to my 35 and up people who are in the room. And online, Krista. I am also an alumni of the second iteration of Preaching Boot Camp. I did not make it through the first time. I was in it, but I did not make it through. I want to talk to you today about neurodiversity, about how not only are our bodies created differently, this is You Are Not Naked 2.0, for those of you who saw that sermon, but also our brains and personalities too. Any kind of diversity can be challenging when we see people who look different than us or act different than us. It can also be challenging when we don't understand them. It is important to see that our diversity is a gift from God. So I'm going to tell you a little bit about myself that maybe you don't know. The first time that I went into therapy, it was not my decision. I was a senior in high school, and my mother was worried about my emotional reaction to a comment that was made after an argument between me and my sister. The truth is, I didn't have an emotional reaction at all, which was considered alarming because everybody else in the house was either crying or yelling. That was in 1993. I believe I stayed in therapy at that time for about a month before I was pulled out. During that time, unbeknownst to me, the therapist suggested that I be put on antidepressants. My parents declined. On my last visit, the therapist told me that once I went to college, I would be fine. And I just needed to get out of my parents' house. I was not fine. I flunked out of my first college a year and a half later. I lost my full scholarship at my second college in 1996. Over the years, I have attempted to complete a bachelor's degree several times, attending 7 colleges and changing my major 4 times. I've been fired from at least 3 jobs, had 2 of my cars repossessed, and have been evicted twice. I didn't file taxes for 10 years, which resulted in my savings account being seized and my wages garnished. I had to zero out my 401k to keep my apartment from going into foreclosure. I have lost countless friends and family connections. For 26 years, I was misunderstood. I received solicited and unsolicited advice from many people along the way, saying that I needed to buckle down and focus, get off my butt, try harder, use my brain, use my common sense. I have been told that I am being lazy, stupid, insensitive, overly sensitive, inconsiderate, callous, rude, flighty, flaky, selfish, slow, unorganized, careless, a monster. I sought therapy and have been in and out of therapy many times over the years and have been prescribed medications for a host of things, including OCD, depression, anxiety, even chronic migraines and insomnia. Finally, in 2019, one of my close friends mentioned ADHD. She encouraged me to seek an evaluation. I was in therapy at the time, so I went to my therapist and asked about it. I was not expecting my therapist's response. I told her that if she thought I had ADHD, she would have told me by now. We had been in therapy for a minute. She had been my therapist. And my therapist quickly said, well, and I said, well, what? What do you mean? You trying to tell me that you think? My therapist said that I was sensitive to criticism. Anybody who knows anything about rejection sensitivity? And she was afraid that if she mentioned the idea of me possibly having ADHD, that I would ghost her, like I did before. She encouraged me to seek an evaluation as well. And after 26 years after my first therapy session, I was evaluated and diagnosed with ADHD. ADHD stands for Attention Deficit Hyperactivity Disorder. ADHD falls under the umbrella term neurodivergent. Someone who is described as neurodivergent may think and function in ways that diverge from the dominant societal standards that we unhelpfully call normal, which can include differences in learning, communication, social preferences. People who are neurodivergent may have diagnostic labels such as ADHD, autism, anxiety disorders, dyslexia, intellectual disabilities, OCD, as well as others. Or they may not. But even those who are neurotypical, those who kind of fit into the majority, are neurodiverse in their own way. All of our brains and bodies are wired differently. I'm going to put up, I think I have a script thing, some common challenges of people described as neurodivergent. They have trouble making eye contact while walking or reading or not reading body language. They have speech and language challenges such as stuttering and repetition. They can have learning challenges that may result in difficulty to focus, reading, calculation, ability to follow spoken word, and/or problems with executive function, working memory, flexible thinking, and self-control. They have unusual responses to sensory input, hence no thing around my ear. Sensitivity or an unusual insensitivity to light, sound, heat, cold, pressure, crowds, or other stimuli. Unusual physical behaviors such as rocking, expressing tics, blurting things out, and shouting at unexpected times. Inflexibility, the inability to adapt or change interests based on age or situation. Neurodiverse is a new term, but the condition isn't. When we look at all the stories in the Bible, of the peoples of the Bible, we know that they are not all the same. I mean, this is forefront, right? But we don't see the word neurodivergent or neurodiverse in the text. It makes it hard for some of us to relate. Are there people in the Bible who might have been considered neurodiverse if they were living today? So I did what I do when I always have questions. I went to the Google. And yes, I do say the Google, because I am over a certain age and I like to say the Google instead of just Google. Thank you. You want to guess what I found out? Some scholars believe that if living today, Noah, Moses, King David, several of the prophets, and Matthew might have been considered neurodivergent. Yeah, I thought so too. I thought it was interesting too. So I decided I was going to look up some more about one of them and talk about them. I'm going to talk to you about the story of Noah. Okay? Now, before I get started, I want to acknowledge that many scholars believe that the story of Noah is not real. I would consider myself not necessarily a scholar, but I do question whether this actually happened or not. But we're not going to discuss that today. I and some of the other people at Forefront take the Bible too seriously to take it literally. Besides, for the sake of my sermon, it's irrelevant, is what the story is trying to make us think about. So in this story, I'm not going to read all the passages and stuff. We're not doing that today. So in the story, this guy Noah builds an ark in his backyard where there's no water around. because God told him to. I mean, think about how the Bible describes Noah in a world where people are obsessed with making money and spending it. It says Noah was described as different. He doesn't care about the same things that everybody else seems to care about. He seemed to be good with numbers. I mean, he built a big boat. I actually took the word out hoping that I would not say it, but you know, it happens. He built a big boat without calculators or any modern technology. He could probably see things in a way that others could not. He probably also related well to animals. I don't know how you convince all those animals to come into a yard with no water and get on a boat, but you know, maybe not so much with people. He seemed to be hyper-focused on the task at hand. People probably laughed at him and ridiculed him and ostracized him and maybe even bullied him for being different. He could have been misunderstood. Yet the Bible says he was favored by God. He walked with God. He could understand things that other people could not comprehend in their brains the way that their brains were made. The story of Noah is a reminder that our neurodifferences are not a curse, but a gift. It's not just something to be accommodated or tolerated, but there is a gift and beauty in the brilliance of it. We acknowledge the gift that is people like Noah, who don't fit in with the majority. We are blessed by him and by those who are like him, and they might just save us from ourselves. Now, we all know what happened at the end of the story. Those who bullied Noah, who made fun of him, they refused to see God at work through someone different like Noah, and they literally missed the boat. I don't say this to dismiss the challenges associated with being neurodivergent. Things that neurotypical folk take for granted may not be easy for someone else, and vice versa. This also doesn't mean Noah was perfect. I was reminded by Pastor Jonathan that at the end of this story, Noah was passed out drunk and naked in public. Apparently that got out of the book that they tell about Noah and the ark, right? They didn't say that part, but you know, it is there. There are ways that being different than everybody else is emotionally and physically exhausting. There's a lot of masking that has to go on, a lot of trying to act the way society expects you to, feeling like we're responsible for other people's comfort when we are not, and we have to put on a mask to fix it. It is exhausting. I can tell you that from my own experience. It's exhausting. Being so different carries a weight that others may not realize. When I graduated from high school, I had a 4.2 GPA. I had gotten into every school I applied to and received full and partial scholarships from many of the schools. In high school, I tutored people in math, and throughout my college career, I tutored people in math and accounting. The first time I took center stage was in high school for a televised mock trial. I was labeled as gifted in the 6th grade. One of my gifts is a compulsion, a single-minded drive to be authentic, to share my pain, shame, and frustration with you. I also am perceptive, for those of you who haven't had the honor of being the subject of my gaze, beware, and have the ability to reach people in a way in which my words and stories make them feel seen. Last week, we had a meeting with a couple of bankers, and at the end of that meeting, people were almost in tears and everybody kept coming up and hugging me. I had never met those people before. I don't even know what I said that made them cry. I was just talking. For me, the weight of even writing this sermon is monumental. For those of you who were in the room the first time I preached at Forefront, you saw me walk through the door and collapse into tears. I had a full-on panic attack. Angela was there. She prayed with me. This time, my concern was that my differences would make this message muddled and incomprehensible, and it had me paralyzed. My blessing is that I had other members of this community that helped me when I was in crisis. Thank you to everybody who looked after me. I appreciate it. Like Noah's sons who covered him up when he was naked and drunk, I have people who are here to support me. So I'm going to end with 1 Corinthians chapter 12, verses 12 through 27. For just as the body is one and has many members, and all the members of the body, though many, are one body, so is with Christ. For in the one Spirit, we are all baptized into one body, Jews or Greeks, slaves or free, and we were all made to drink of one Spirit. Indeed, the body does not consist of one member, but of many. If the foot would say, because I am not a hand, I do not belong to the body, that would not make it any less part of the body. And if the ear would say, because I am not an eye, I do not belong to the body, that would not make it any less part of the body. If the whole body were an eye, where would we hear? If the whole body were hearing, where would the sense of smell be? But as it is, God arranged the members in the body, each one of them as he chose. If all were a single member, where would the body be? As it is, there are many members, yet one body. The eye cannot say to the hand, I have no need of you, nor again the head to the feet, I have no need of you. On the contrary, the members of the body that seem to be weaker and indispensable, are indispensable, and those members of the body that we think less honorable, we clothe with greater honor, and our less respectable members are treated with greater respect, whereas our most respectable members do not need this. But God has so arranged the body, giving greater honor to the inferior member, that there may be no dissension within the body, but the members may have the same care for one another. I want to add one more thing in the middle here because it came up when I was reading this time. It also doesn't say, if I don't understand what the hand does, if I don't understand what the ear does, then it doesn't belong here. If one member suffers, all suffer together with it. If one member is honored, all rejoice together with it. Now you are the body of Christ and individual members of it. So for my folks who may consider themselves either diagnosed or not diagnosed neurodiverse, in an honor of saying that, or the people who are not and just want to use a toy, I brought some fidget toys in because I know that it's hard for some of us neurodiverse people and some of us who are not neurodiverse but can't sit still, to sit still. So there are some fidget toys up here. They help you sit still in the seat, helps me sit still in the seat, helps me focus sometimes. And you're more than welcome to take one. There's also little cards. They're called finger labyrinths. I knew I was going to say that wrong. And you can trace it. It's a way of helping with stress and anxiety. Please feel free to take any or all of what you feel like you might use so that we can help and support each other. I will say that our community is just as diverse, right? We've got people who consider themselves neurodivergent like me, and we have people who don't. But it takes all of us to build a community, all of us. I don't usually pray at the end, so I'm going to stop here. Y'all know how I do. I am going to let people come up they're going to come up so that we can start to take communion, and I'm going to read this one little thing, okay? For everybody who's out there who feels like they're different, and it doesn't matter what your different is, right? It doesn't have to necessarily be that you're neurodiverse. It could be anything. Know that you have a place here. For those of you who feel like you can't use your voice because you are different, know that you can speak up here. In this community, you are welcome and you are celebrated. If you believe anything about Forefront, it's that we always make space. For folks like Noah, folks like you, folks like me. That's what I love about this community and also about communion, because communion is something that we can take together and there is no criteria, except that you just want to. It is an epitome of the body of Christ, and all are included. Every voice, thought, challenge, and breakdown, it's all included. And you're invited, every one of you, especially those of you who were told that you don't have a seat. Communion is a place where we are reminded that we are blessed by God and there is no inferior. So come, partake the gifts of God for all of us, the whole body of God. You can come up and take the chalice, and then I'll come back and we'll take it together.